shortened version today because the work session begins at 4 o'clock. The budget is once again on tap for that meeting. So we have a short session and a full table. Lots of information for you today. So we'll start off with you, Jay. Jay Whitman.
All right, so I was asked to update where we are on the tank, and not to minimize the 9 long months that we've gone through a lot of painful inconvenience with the cell phones. The tank itself is probably about 3 parts. You have the wet inside of the tank, the dry inside of the tank, and then the entire outside. The good news is the contractor has brought in 3 times the amount of people that he had before and twice the equipment. The equipment's in real good shape. I've been extremely impressed over the last month, three and a half weeks to a month that he's been recommitted to this. He's on schedule to have 90% of the whole inside done through the priming process. He's hired a painting contractor this as part of the contract to finish the inside. We hope to be completely done with the inside as far as his part's concerned in the next 2.5 weeks. The priming portion will be done probably by the end of this week, depending on what this storm does. And then they'll go immediately to the outside. The cell phone tower, the antenna mounts themselves are already in place. We do have to paint the entire outside and then hopefully be able to turn the whole thing over to the cell phone providers somewhere around December 18th. At least that's the target date now. Again, I don't want to minimize what we've gone through. It has been painful, but the last 3.5 weeks, it's been going at a really impressive pace, and I couldn't be happier. And I hope to have everything ready to go and turn back over to the cell phone people hopefully around December 18th.
Fabulous. Before Christmas. Merry Christmas. That's great. All right, and thank you for mentioning the storm too, Jay, because we want to warn all of our citizens to please pay attention to the weather reports and prepare. Right now it looks like we might miss the worst part of it, but we will have wind and rain. So please pay attention and be prepared. Richard.
Just a short update, kind of a big thing for us. We have new pavement going down today. Our paving contractor started last week, mobilized and got ready. They paved the Cedar Point there in Rock Creek today and should have moved on to Glen Hardy, the apron entrance there. And they're going to move down to Orange Avenue Pier and pave that parking lot hopefully tomorrow. And as long as it's just windy and not rainy, they'll continue to keep paving, and hopefully we'll get all those streets on that list knocked out here in short order. So
great.
We're excited about that.
Super.
And that's a good improvement to our community. Thank you.
Okay. And our newest SRO. Will you please tell all the parents out there and the children what your program's all about?
Yes, ma'am. We're there to benefit both the parents, kids, staff. We take care of all safety issues. We check the outside the school, the inside the school. Over the last about 10 days, I've spoke to 7 different classes at the school. One of them's Law and Society, the other's Driver's Ed. The kids want you to come in and answer questions that they have about law. We've had other problems out there we've handled. So far, we've got 3 SROs, myself at the high school, Officer Bishop's at the middle school, and Officer Miller started today in the elementary school. And he's going to float from there to the intermediate to Newton until we can add our next 2.
Okay. And SRO stands for?
School Resource Officer.
Okay. And sounds like your resources are very different.
Yes, ma'am.
Given any day.
It is.
Super. Well, thanks for serving. That's great. And will you show us the patch on your shirt?
Oh,
That's
yes.
very important.
We have tried to fit in a little more and stand out for the kids, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, we've added their flag to our shirt.
That's great. That's super. Okay, John.
Yeah, just from the police department standpoint, we're extremely busy, and we're looking, obviously got our eye on the storm, looking ahead, hoping that doesn't impact us, but at least on some level we'll have some sort of an impact. So preparing for that. We still have a lot of calls about the possibility of, rabid foxes and coons. I could confirm that we did have 2 animals that were infected or have rabies. One was a coon, one was the fox. Actually was never located, so I guess that's still a suspicion that something was wrong with it, but it never was confirmed. But the coon was. So I guess my words to the public would be cautious. If there's an wild animal in your backyard, obviously, and make sure your pets are vaccinated against it, because you don't know when your dog's or cat is going to come in contact with one of these animals and bring it home to you. So make sure your animals are vaccinated. And we had some break-ins in Rock Creek. We asked people to be vigilant about locking your doors. Most of these are unlocked vehicles, and just be vigilant locking your doors. That's really all I've got.
Okay. John, can you give us any idea or any recommendations for the residents of how to avoid inviting rabid animals into their neighborhood?
Yeah, well, these unfortunately, there are a few people that I'm aware of that feed these coons. Our gully system is full of animals, and raccoons there's a lot of them in Fairhope, and there are some people who enjoy seeing the coons in their backyard at night, and they feed them. The problem with that is that all these coons eating out of the same bowl, if one of them does have rabies, then that saliva is going to pass it to the others, and then that branches out from there. So first thing we ask that you do is you don't feed the animals, at least until this scare is over with. I understand people enjoy seeing them in their yard, but right now it's not a good time to feed them, and or do anything to encourage them coming into your yard. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that goes for cats, feral cats too.
Yeah, cats too. I mean, they again, that gully system connects so many parts of Fairhope together. It's just a thoroughfare for wildlife, and that the cats use that too. So it'd be nice not to feed the cats and encourage that. Especially if the cats are eating out of a bowl where food's been left out for coons. I mean, that's the concern when it comes to domesticated animals. Is them coming in contact with something that an animal that has rabies has been drinking or eating out of.
Okay.
And I just talked to the executive director of the Haven right before this meeting, and he was saying that just about cats, being careful about feeding them. So I just wanted to throw that in because he just said it to me.
Okay. Thank you. Tom.
The big news in the Recreation Department is the scaffolding's coming down at the swimming pool, which makes it look like a real building again. We're all real happy to see that. It's so far they've done a great job, and they're over there breaking it down today, so they're real close. They will finish up this week, depending upon what this storm does, how many rain days we might get out of it. And then things are moving right along with the new manager down at the marina. Sean's fitting right in and taking control of everything. And out at the golf course, it's business as usual as long as we can keep the rain away.
I noticed there was a crowd at the soccer fields this weekend.
It was just state games. I think we had 12 teams in town from around the state. It's kind of a normal thing this time of year. These are, I guess, travel ball you'd call it. It's our Gulf Coast Rangers part of the soccer, and they came down for just Saturday and played all their games on Saturday.
All right. Thank you. Wayne, what's happening in planning?
Same old. Just been busy. Got lots of projects. We had a development review committee meeting today, and went over several projects. We've got a full agenda for the planning commission, and still just moving with that. And we've discussed before. We've kind of changed our review process, and we have opportunities to meet internally, but also externally with the applicants to discuss their comments as a group. So that's been going well. Other than that, it's been the same. So nothing else to report.
Okay, great. Sherry Lee.
We're wrapping up a few of our grant projects that we got, I'd say 18 months ago when Mayor took office, and we started getting some of these proposals in. So our first couple resilience grant projects we're doing the final reports, which is exciting. And one of them will be featured at a national conference next week, so that's pretty cool too. And then otherwise, throughout the city, we're looking at our events budget here. We're working on New Year's and Christmas and all of that in our department, and getting ready for that, and working on some onboarding with our new museum director, just different things like that, some community related outreach that we're working on collaboratively. So just pressing forward.
Okay, great. Richard.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh,
we
you're
still
next.
have quite a long time to go through this meeting. But we're trying to work on some of the budget, trying to get the finishing touches put on that. So hopefully we can get that thing approved and be working on a clean budget slate sooner rather than later. I think we're getting pretty close to what the information is that the council's looking for in terms of adding personnel and how we're going to justify those expenses. So we're working on that. The plans for the marina at the main pier, the electrical is out for bid. We're going to receive bids on the 25th of October. We're redoing pretty much all of that electrical, and the purpose from that is some of the codes have changed, and the boats now require some higher rated services to provide electric to those boats. So we're upgrading to meet the demand for that too. And I know there's been a couple of lights out on the pier. We thought we had fixed those, and the connections are just where damage has occurred, and it's not going to work out, I don't think, although they've tried to go back and see what they can do to get those back on again. We've got out for bids the transformers for the substation upgrade. Those bids will be November 1st, and we'll follow that bid with a bid package for the actual site work at each of the substation locations, and hopefully we'll be able to finalize the details on the site for the Nichols and Church Street lift station. It'll be consolidated, that corner of Nichols and Young. We're close to that. We're working through some environmental assessment issues right now with that particular piece of property. We hope that won't slow the project down. We're taking advantage of our camera truck. We're trying to get some videos done. We're finding some locations where directional bore for fiber or telephone or cable have penetrated some of the sewer lines, so we're trying to get those fixed, and we're preparing right now for the tropical storm or perhaps hurricane, depending on what path it gets and how it affects us. But we anticipate that to be a similar event to Gordon. We hopefully we'll have less rain, but we're looking at maybe some temporary pumps we'll have on call and be set up to manage some of the lift stations that are key to the wastewater conveyance. This afternoon at 5:30, the Scout Troop of Fairhope is coming to the wastewater plant, and we're going to show those kids, what we do with all the wastewater that's generated in Fairhope and how we manage and treat it. And we're looking forward to that.
That'd be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And one of their interests is in power consumption, so we're going to try to look at some of the motors and some of the efforts that we use to reduce costs through our SCADA system and the way it operates the wastewater plant. So that's all good.
Let's hope they don't have any questions you can't answer.
Well, they might. And it wouldn't be the first time somebody had questions I couldn't answer, but we are excited to have them. Gas-wise, we're working with the widening project on 31, which I know is not in Fairhope, but in Spanish Ford, and we've got a lot of relocation work that's going on there. We're trying to improve some of that system to meet current codes with valves that are accessible for some of the regulator stations we have out there, and we're working through that with the contractor, and we're trying to prepare for future growth in that area by upsizing some of those connections too. So we're doing that. The 181 widening project south of Belforest down to south of 104, it has been let, and you notice if you drive out that way, the right-of-way's being cleared, and it's a pretty wide swath they're taking through there. Some pretty big trees are being cut down, some houses are being removed, but we'll have a gas line relocated in that entire corridor, as well as some water and wastewater. So we're working with those projects too. And I mean, it's just, if there's not anything to do to, wait a few minutes and something will come up, I promise you that. And we're just trying to manage all of it best we can. And everybody in all of the departments is doing an outstanding job. We're just, just everybody's got a lot to do. And it does start to get to the point where you become a little bit tense and nervous about getting everything done. So we're trying to find something. I think we have an employee luncheon coming up Thursday that will hopefully give everybody a chance to be on a more social level and
take a breather
and take a little bit of time off, and we're looking forward to that.
Tell me, do you have any idea about when the lights on the pier will be completed, that project? I know we have a lot of people interested in
It's a
that.
120-day contract.
It is.
And part of the process is going to be to replace the existing transformer that's in the closet space by the bathroom facility. So we're going to have a complete power outage for the better part of a day, I would think, to be able to get the old transformer out, the new transformer in, and all the connections made back to all the boxes that we're putting in for load centers. But you know, it's part of progress, and
Has to be
that's
done.
what we wind up having to deal with. So we'd appreciate the patience so far, and we hope that we'll be able to manage this thing, and everybody will be better for it in the long run.
Great, thank you.
And Lynn, if I could say, Public Works has been able to take advantage of the camera system because it also can camera stormwater drains. And they helped us out with a little problem over on Holly Drive early on, and maybe it would be neat. We'll maybe bring you a video in we can show. To me, it's very exciting film, but you know, it sure does make fixing a drainage problem much easier when you know what you're up against. If it's a displaced pipe or root intrusion, or it's just something has clogged it up, you know. And so it is really a powerful tool that saves a lot of manpower in the sense as you're not just digging and guessing where the problem is, you know, because not only does the camera vehicle drive down the pipe, it's telling you distances and everything else, so you know exactly where the problem is once it's filmed.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's really, really
That would be neat to see at supervisors meeting and then maybe bring it forward.
Well, Jay's got to work better on the soundtrack that he puts with him because it's a little dry right now. But other than that, the video was excellent.
Okay, great. I'm going to take advantage of this for just a moment. We had received an email from a resident who was curious about the flags on Veterans Highway. And we've gone back and forth, and I've tried to find this resident's email address, his name, whatever. It has just simply disappeared from the chain of emails. And I just want to inform everybody that when the flags were removed for Gordon, I believe it was, they were in pretty bad shape, and new ones have been ordered. So we're not returning the old flags. We will have flags along the highway again as soon as the new ones come in.
But not before this hurricane hits.
But we'll wait until till Michael is done doing whatever he's going to do.
Let me add something too. I just pulled up this email because I thought this was interesting about, we had some complaints about air noise, air traffic
Okay.
a while back. And we've done a really good job, I think, working with our partners, the Navy over in Florida, and worked on that with the Airport Authority. There was a complaint again, something happened where there was someone flying very low last week. And it's been addressed by the Airport Authority and the Navy. So I just wanted to say they have spoken. There was video that was turned over to the FAA and the Navy, and it's being taken care of, being
Okay.
addressed. So
Super.
if anyone's concerned about that issue, because I know it flies on social media pretty quick.
Yes, it does. Yes.
No pun intended.
Okay. Anybody else have any other words of wisdom or noteworthy?
Well, we're still in mourning over the Auburn loss Saturday.
I join you on the LSU loss in the morning.
I happened to be in New Orleans with my wife and daughter, and the place we were staying didn't have TV. It had a Apple, whatever that is, and of course you had to subscribe to the football game. So I wound up going down to Cooter Brown's, which is a bar down toward the river, and the LSU fans were going great until toward the end of the game, and they vacated the premises pretty quick after the game.
It was a heartbreaker.
We're a little upset about the whole thing. But
1 point.
so I had the whole place to myself to watch the Auburn game.
Well, pretty good Saturday, huh?
Yeah, it was. The oysters were good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your information and your help.
Can I get an excuse?